Okay, Daniel chapter 11, verse 1. Zach.
Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to confirm and strengthen him.
Okay, so we should keep in mind that the previous chapter, chapter 10, is linked to this chapter, so just avoid the chapter and verse divisions in your thought process when you're going through what's happening here. The quote-unquote man ministering to Daniel states that he recently was an encouragement and a protector of Darius the Mede. Is that what your translation says in verse 1? It says Darius the Mede, that's what mine says. Which could possibly mean that he somehow, in the free will of Darius, assisted with Darius, there he is right there, in the process of Cyrus making the decree, there's the cylinder, for the Jews to return to their homeland. Okay? What else would it mean if the man was to stand up and to confirm and to strengthen Darius? Maybe it could mean that the man stood up and helped Darius in the process if Darius was involved in the declaration to send back the Jews to Israel. Okay. And then, of course, the declaration is summed up in the beginning of Ezra chapter 1, verse 1. The first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm and also to put it in writing. That's the Cyrus cylinder. Now, Darius the Mede, that's probably wrong in verse number 1. It's a bad translation. It's an error. Another reading seems to fit the context better, and that's the reading that's in the Septuagint. Yeah. Because the Septuagint says, in the first year of King Cyrus, he told me to be strong and to be courageous, something like that. So Cyrus is a much better reading, fits the context better. Cyrus is previously mentioned at the beginning of the vision in chapter 10, verse 1. If we're thinking of bookends here, okay? Darius isn't. And Cyrus, more than Darius, would logically need to be strengthened more because he was the one who was responsible for the decree that would send the nation of Israel back to the promised land. Nevertheless, either reading doesn't totally injure what's going on here, but the Cyrus one just makes so much more sense. Contextually, within the prophecy itself, beginning in 10:1, and not older isn't always better, but a lot of times it is. In the older text, the Septuagint says Cyrus. So we're going to go with that reading, not Darius. Verse 2. Mr. Skipper.
And now I will show you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings shall arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be richer than all of them. And when he has become strong through his riches, he shall stir up again all against the kingdom of Greece.
Okay, so in verse number 2, the messenger informs the prophet Daniel that 3 kings are going to follow Cyrus. And here's once again when we see the Cyrus reading fit so much better than the Darius reading. There shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. So history has shown us, guys, for these 3 kings to be after Cyrus, to be Cambyses, 530 to 522, Smerdis, who reigned a whole 1 year in 522, and Darius the First, Hystaspes, 521 to 486. So if you're wondering in Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, that there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, those are the 3 kings. Now, It goes on to say, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. Special attention here is given to the fourth king of Persia, and this would be the infamous Xerxes, or in Hebrew, Ahasuerus, of the book of Esther. Artaxerxes, indeed, as we see here, and by his strength and his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. Artaxerxes indeed stirred up all against the up-and-coming Grecian Empire in a full-front war. That full-front war took place between 481 and 479. Okay. Tell me more about that full-front war, Thomas. Thank you. I will. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, in his wonderful book, The Persian Wars, this prophecy in Daniel was fulfilled when Xerxes went, and he goes on to say, quote, to throw a bridge over the Hellespont and march an army through Europe against Greece. Hellespont, if you're wondering, is right there. Okay? That was the springboard, as it were. The Megiddo Plateau, like Joshua uses to springboard into Canaan. Speaking of that, next semester, I'm going to be teaching the Book of Judges on Tuesday night from 6 to 9, and it can be taken for a biblical studies class or a humanities class. So take it, please. All right, verse number 3. Wesley.
And a mighty king will arise, and he will rule with great authority and do as he pleases.
In cryptic, murky, enigmatic fashion, the prophet is informed by the quote-unquote man, the messenger here, that another king is coming. Another king after the fourth king, and this king is going to arise on the geopolitical world scene. And he shall, we see here, rule with great dominance and do according to his will. Now, who is that king? Because there's definitely a hint given. Verse number 4 really gives it away. But we have a feeling, since we're thinking about Daniel chapter 2 statue, we're thinking about Daniel chapter 7, the beast coming out of the sea, that it has to be Alexander the Great. That's who we think it would be if we didn't read any further. But since we're in a Bible college, we're going to read the next verse. Verse 4. Jane.
After he has appeared, his empire will be broken up and parceled out toward the four winds of heaven. But it will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the power he exercised, because his empire will be uprooted and given to others.
Okay, so when this dark, mysterious king will be at the zenith or the summit or the height of his geopolitical career, he is going to perish. Okay, and then it says, that's what it means when his kingdom shall be broken. That's when he's going to die. And it shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven. Aha! Of course, then this locks in, this fourth portion of his kingdom, of course, locks into the mysterious four wings or four heads from Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. And we know who these four wings or four heads are because we have this map. And they are, as you can see, Cassander, which would be in Greece. Lysimachus, we'll call that Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, modern-day Lebanon. the Seleucids, where at this point in time, in the first division of the kingdom, it's primarily the Tigris-Euphrates Valley and reaching into Iran and Afghanistan, as the president says, Pakistan, not Pakistan, Pakistan. That's how he pronounces it. And then finally, the Ptolemaic kingdom, which we could call the North African Rim, Africa reaching down into Kush. Now, guys, this prophecy in verse 4 goes from the time of Xerxes, okay, to like 150 years, not back to the future, but into the future. From the death of Xerxes, it just jumps 150 years to the time of the division of the Alexander Kingdom in about 303. And it skips the 6 last kings of the Persian Empire after Xerxes, okay, and then brings us to the life and time of Alexander the Great and his death and the division of the kingdom. So we're skipping 6 Persian kings. Okay. Now what? Verse 5. Zachary.
Also the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be great dominion.
Ptolemy, the Ptolemaic Empire. Now there's a lot of Ptolemies we're going to be talking about tonight. It's a common surname. This would be Ptolemy Soter, S-O-T-E-R, if you really care, the first. Okay? Ptolemy Soter the first. So we'll just call him Ptolemy for sure. Now, of course, he ruled, as you can see this map, which we'll see a lot tonight, he ruled the southern section of the Greek Empire in the Africa region. And Alexandria, of course, which was named after Alexander the Great, was his headquarters. Now, this prophecy says that he is going to, and there he is right there, he is going to rise in dominion and power and strength militarily. But, the prophecy says, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him. One of his military commanders, guys, is going to exercise and rule with more power and more authority than he is. Okay, Daniel, tell me more. Well, the quote-unquote prince that we're talking about in verse number 5 is Seleucid. Seleucid. To be a little more technical, Seleucus. We can call him Nicator the First, N-I-C-A-T-O-R, Nicator the First, and that's it. This is a really good class tonight for knowledge and for intertestamental information, because you're never going to hear Daniel 11 taught out in church, because there's nothing in here that is a pastor's preaching point. You know, like, you need to be, showing the fruit of the Spirit or something like that. There's none of that kind of stuff. And this is chronological history of the dark intertestamental period. Yes, ma'am.
So Nicator Seleucus is different than the Seleucians from Syria? These are different boys?
The Seleucid Empire, good question, which we see right there in pink, was that guy right there was one of the 4 heads in that beast, okay? And that guy, Ptolemy Soter the First, he's also one of the 4 heads of that beast. Okay, so he would be the George Washington, as it were, of the Seleucid Empire.
Okay. So but he came from Ptolemy?
No.
I'll just be quiet.
Wait, don't be quiet. Because it says one of his commanders will exercise. So apparently, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure, though, he never told a lie like George Washington also. Okay, so this is, thank you for the question, it's a great question. Seleucid, the first Nicator, the founder of the Seleucid dynasty, and yet to be mentioned, because we're going to hear a lot about this guy, the yet to be mentioned first of the kings of the north. You with me? 2 or 3 or 9. Good. I drank 2 Red Bulls before class, because we got to plow through 45 verses tonight. Okay? Mr. Skinner, you look concerned. Mr. Skinner. Verse number 6. Elena Margaret.
After some years, they will form an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south will come to the king of the north to carry out a peaceful arrangement, but she will not retain the position of power, nor will he remain with his power. But she will be given up along with those who brought her in, and the one who sired her, as well as he who supported her in those times.
Okay, you probably never even read that verse before in the Bible. But there it is. What's going on here? The 2 dynasties, the Seleucid dynasty and the Ptolemaic dynasty, are going to do what everyone did in the world of the Bible. They are going to concrete their alliances, their dynasties, with a political marriage. Something very common in the ancient Near East. A method of diplomacy. Like our friend Shlomo, Solomon, in 1 Kings 11, 1 through 3. King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. By the way, Pharaoh means great house. A great house. Women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, You shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love, and he had 700 wives and princesses, and 300 concubines, and it would take him 3 years to share a pillow with each one of those. Okay? A long time. Now, when you...
Are you sure he was the wisest man in the world?
Good point, Ron. Good point, Doctor. When you think of these, look at it. When a Moabite and Ammonite and Zidonian would come from their hometown to Jerusalem, guys, they're not coming by themselves. They bring an embassy with them. They build an embassy in Jerusalem. Because that's part of the reason you're there. You're there to be a middle woman in the link between the cats. So if you're going to bring an embassy, then you're going to bring your priest. And you're going to bring, like Naaman did in 2 Kings chapter 5, you're going to bring earth from your own home, your physical dirt from Moab or whatever, you're going to bring to Jerusalem, and then you're going to build a temple to Chemoth in Jerusalem, and you're going to put the dirt from Moab in the temple of Chemoth in Jerusalem, so you can put Chemoth on your own home turf. And that's why there are more idols found in Jerusalem than any other city in all of Israel. That's part and parcel of the problem. That's why God doesn't want them to intermarry with these people. Okay? So that's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. So, unbeknownst to the reader, that would be you and I, there is more than a 30-year period, a 30-year gap between verses 5 and verses 6. Verse 6. When was this 30-year gap? 280 to 250, or 249. Now, the daughter of the king of the south. At this point, it's Ptolemy still, but it's a different Ptolemy. It's the Ptolemy Lagus, L-A-G-U-S. That's who's ruling the Ptolemaic Empire at this time. One of the test questions will be to write out in order all of the Ptolemaic leaders and all the Seleucid leaders. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Okay, so the daughter of the king of the south, the daughter of Ptolemy Lagus is identified as Bernice the First. Bernice the First of Egypt, who may have lived from 340 to 268, approximately. Okay. Who, according to this verse, guys, because it says, she shall not retain the power of the arm. Okay? But she shall be given up. Okay. What does it all mean? It means after an unknown, indefinite period of time that she's given from Egypt to Syria, because that will be the headquarters, probably Damascus, of the Seleucid Empire. The marriage is not going to last. That's basically what it means. Okay, the marriage is not going to last. The political alliance will be broken, and she, therefore, there she is. She and her father then will no longer retain the political connections that are needed between the southern kingdom in Egypt and the northern kingdom based in Syria, Damascus. All right? Okay. Verse 7. Yeah.
But out of the branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail.
Okay, so a branch of her roots means a descendant from her family, one of her relatives, from the Ptolemaic region of the empire, from Egypt, is going to come from Egypt and is going to relieve her of her shame. That's the her. That's Bernice the First. He's going to relieve her of her shame, and then he's going to do what? He shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north. That means he's going to attack the headquarters. He's going to attack the headquarters of the northern kingdom in Syria. And he's going to overthrow the Seleucid dynasty in the process. History has shown this quote-unquote branch, this relative of Bernice the First of Egypt, to be Ptolemy. There we go again. Ptolemy Euergetes, E-U-E-R-G-E-T-E-S the Third. It's her brother. That's what it is. It's her brother. Who ruled from 246 to 222. And there he is. Okay. Do you see why people like to date the book of Daniel to a late date? Because they would say, how in the world could Daniel know all of this? So people who deny the ability of God, no. For the prophecy came not in old time by the will of men, but holy men of God spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. They deny that the Holy Spirit can move a prophet to foretell and foretell the future. So, he could never do that. And so this book has to be written after all of these events occurred. This is what we call a minimalist. Verse 8, Zach.
And he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north.
Okay, so Euergetes the Third, Ptolemy Euergetes the Third, there he is right there. That's his good side, not that. Okay. So he marches then, like everyone else does in ancient Near Eastern fashion, in a parade from Syria through Israel back to Egypt. And history purports that Euergetes carried some 2,500 idols from Syria back to Egypt, many of which were probably taken from Egypt in the first place during the reign of the predecessor of Cyrus, Cambyses. This is not what the Jews do. When in 1 Samuel, the Jews overtake, in 2 Samuel chapter 5, in chapter 6, the Philistines come up to fight against David after he recently settles down in the city of David. The scriptures say that the Jews burnt or destroyed all of the Philistine idols in the battlefield. Unlike Nebuchadnezzar, who brings the treasure back and then sets it up in the temples in Babylon. Nevertheless, after replacing all of these long-lasting stolen relics and all of these great treasures of iniquity that were taken by Cambyses hundreds of years earlier, what did the Egyptians do? Well, they bestowed upon Eurydice this name. If anyone can read that, I'll give you $1 million.
It's a cartoon.
Well, whenever you see a cartouche in Egyptian hieroglyphics, by the way, hieroglyphics means sacred writing. So you read for sacred writing. It's a proper name, a personal name inside the cartouche. Okay, and basically what that means is the benefactor. He was given a nickname by the Egyptian peasants. Eurydice was. Eurydice III, the benefactor. Why is he the benefactor? Because he brought back Isis, and he brought back Horus, and he brought back... By the way, it's going to be a long night, but I should mention it anyways. From what I understand, and it's very interesting, I'm not sure what to make about that. In antiquity, ancient Greek literature, there was a particular Egyptian deity. And this particular Egyptian deity's nickname, written in ancient Greek, was a stigma, stigma, stigma. A stigma, stigma, stigma. Okay. From what I understand, the stigma is the 6th letter in the ancient Greek alphabet. Okay, you with me? So the weight of that particular Egyptian deity's name was 666. Oh, guess what the name of the deity was? Isis. Isn't that interesting? I'm still working it all out. My wife thinks I'm a little mad sometimes.
Very interesting.
It is very interesting. We have an interesting house.
And where is this found? This god, this...
Isis is the Egyptian, one of the Egyptian main chief deities whose bloodstream was the Nile River.
What's the correlation between 666 and ISIS?
The correlation was in ancient Greek literature, in order to abbreviate the name Isis, to write it out would be a stigma, stigma, stigma. And a stigma, stigma, stigma is a 6 and a 6 and a 6. Okay? Do yourself a favor and take the book of Judges next semester. We'll have a good time. It's a long book. A prophecy is also given that he will live longer than his counterpart in the north. You see it right there. He shall continue more years than the king of the north. The last phrase in the verse. According to the canon of Ptolemy. The canon of Ptolemy would be like the history of the early president. Something like that. So according to the canon of Ptolemy, Eurydice III reigned for 25 years, 246 to 222. And he lived about 3 or 4 years longer than his contemporary, which was Seleucus Callicus, who reigned from 246 to 225, which would make the prophecy true. He shall continue more years than the king of the north. He reigns for 4 more years than the king of the north. During these events, guys, Israel is in that so-called intertestamental period, that dark age, even though it's a terrible name to call it, the dark age of Israelite history. It's not a dark age, this is when all the Maccabees are written. This is when the canonical books are written. Ben Sira, all those kind of things, okay? All right. Verse 9. Mr. Skipper.
And then the latter shall come into the realm of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land.
Okay, so Ptolemy Eugeretes III, after he goes up north, after he releases Bernice in verse number 6 from the shame that was upon her, he didn't stop at attacking the capital of the northern kingdom. Why would you stop? He attempted to overthrow the entire Seleucid dynasty and go all the way into the valley between the Euphrates and the Tigris, go all the way into Persia, all the way into Afghanistan. Well, an act of, according to history, an act of treason back in Egypt apparently stopped him from conquering the entire Seleucid territory. This happens often in 1 Samuel, when Saul had David hemmed in on every side in the Judean wilderness. He had David surrounded. News from Gibeah required Saul to go back. It was probably like a Philistine sortie or something that was happening that had to remove Saul from that position and go back. Just like in the account of Sennacherib, right? In the Sennacherib cylinder. Tidings from the east supposedly were the reason he had to run back home real quick. He had to just stop what he was doing and go back, right? That's kind of what's going on here. He stopped short of conquering all of the Seleucid dynasty and go back to Egypt because of some news. Okay. Verse 10. Okay.
The sun shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. And one shall certainly come, and overflow, and pass through, and then shall he return, and be stirred up even to his fortress.
Okay, so the sons of the king of the north, the descendants and heirs to the, who are the heirs to the Seleucid throne, to the Seleucid dynasty that was just overthrown by the Ptolemaic dynasty, they are going to react to the invasion of the Ptolemaic dynasty from the south they're going to try and regain the throne, regain their birthright to rule and to reign in Damascus. So putting themselves at the head of a great host, right, and it says right there, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. Who's going to assemble a multitude of great forces? The descendants of the king of the north. Putting themselves at the head of the great host, unexpectedly, one of the sons dies. Let me see it. One shall certainly come and overthrow and pass through him. Just one, because in the beginning it says there's two, his sons. So we know from history that one of his sons fell off a horse in battle and was killed. And that's this guy. The son of Callicus, and his name is Seleucid. There he is. Therefore, like I just mentioned, the prophecy tells us that one and not two of his sons shall certainly come. Why didn't two come? Because the one was killed in battle and fell off a horse. Now the one who didn't die, obviously, this is the other son. And he's famous, we'll get to him. This is Antiochus III. Antiochus III. And he is going to be he is going to regain much of the land that was taken from the Seleucid dynasty by the Ptolemaic dynasty. He is going to gobble up all of Israel eventually, which at this point in time would have been under Seleucid rule. Or it's kind of a ping pong that got tossed to and fro between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids. Now, according to Strabo, S-T-R-A-B-O, he is a 1st century Roman geographer and historian. According to Strabo, Antiochus III returned to Syria in winter time, and he waited until, quote unquote, the time that kings go out to battle. So when is the time that kings go out to battle? Some of you have taken my classes before know this, like in 1 Chronicles 20, verse 1, it says in the springtime, at the time when kings go off to war. What does this mean? Well, it means when the roads are dry. It means when the visibility is clear. It means when the wheat and the barley are just about to be or are harvested because the army marches on its stomach. Okay? That's what it means. So, Antiochus waited till the time that came out the battle, springtime, and then attacked, quote unquote, his fortresses. Okay, we see it right there. And then he shall return, because he waited, at the end of verse number 10, he waited till springtime, and he'll be stirred up even to his fortress. So, his fortress, this is the fortress of the son of Ptolemy Euergetes III, which would be, what do you think his name is? Philopator Ptolemy IV. And he reigned from 221 to 205. And there he is in all his glory. Now, this happened in 217, this verse. This verse was fulfilled in 217 BC. And that fortress of the Ptolemaic dynasty that was attacked by the Seleucids under Antiochus III was probably located at Gaza. Gaza means strong to this very day. Strong. So strong Joshua can't take it. So strong David couldn't take it. And the only way Shmuel could take it was by marrying the Pharaoh's tender-eyed daughter. Verse 11. Zach.
And the king of the south shall be moved with rage, and go out and fight with him, with the king of the north, who shall muster a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into the hands of his enemy.
Okay, so because of this blitzkrieg, this brazen attack by Antiochus III on the Ptolemaic border of their homeland, the king of the south, that's this guy, Philopator Ptolemy IV, who by the way murdered Euergetes, his daddy, the third. He battled the king of the north, which would be Antiochus III, at Gaza. Got it? Now, according to a Greek historian, Polybius, in his work The Histories, which covers Greek history from 264 to 146, it says right here that there's going to be, he shall set forth a great multitude. You see it right there in verse 11, right? What was that great multitude? According to that Greek historian, that great multitude set up by Philopator consisted of 70,000 foot soldiers, 5,000 horses, and, not to be outnumbered, 73 elephants. But Antiochus III raided an army of 72,000 foot soldiers, 6,000 horses, and 102 Dumbos. Outnumbered, not greatly outnumbered, but outnumbered the king of the south, Philopator IV. He defeated Antiochus III, pushed him back, and in the process killed 10,000 of his soldiers, 300 of his horses, and took 4,000 prisoners of war. Okay, now what, Daniel? Verse 12. By the way, we're not taking any breaks tonight. We're just plowing right through this, so if you got to get up and go do something, go for it. All right, verse 12. Liz.
And when he hath taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it.
Okay, so according to 3rd Maccabees, which we'll look at the text in a second, Philopator the fourth, all right, upon pushing Antiochus back from Raphia or Gaza, he visited the cities and the temples in Israel, in and around Israel. So upon his admiration of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, he apparently thought it was okay not to listen to the high priests, and he entered into the Holy of Holies. And we see from 2 Maccabees right here what happened to him. He was smitten by God. It says in 3 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 22, he, God, shook him, that would be Philopator, Ptolemy the fourth, on this side and that as a reed shaken by the wind, so that he, Philopator the fourth, lay helpless on the ground, and besides being paralyzed in his limbs, was unable even to speak, since he was smitten by a righteous judgment. Okay. And then we see in the last phrase of verse 12, but he shall not be strengthened by it. What does this mean? Nevertheless, upon the victory, what victory? The victory that he just took from Antiochus III at Gaza. That is to say, Philopator did not pursue Antiochus III. Okay? And thereby, he terminated any future revenge that Antiochus III might have towards Philopator. 13. Zach.
For the king of the north will return and muster a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come at the end of some years with a great army and much equipment.
Okay, so the king of the north shall return. Okay, well, how long was it till he returned, Daniel? History tells us 14 years. It was a 14-year interval upon Antiochus III licking his wounds, restoring his army, building up his military war fund chest. Antiochus III, who reigned, by the way, from 222 to 187. 222 to 187. He once again invaded Egypt then, and he did it upon the death of Philopator, Ptolemy IV, which was in 205. This verse fulfilled in 205. And during the reign, not only upon his death, but was during the beginning of the reign of his son, Ptolemy V, Epiphanes. Who's that guy? That's Ptolemy IV. That's Ptolemy V, Epiphanes. 204 to 181. He was installed as pharaoh over all of Egypt in the Ptolemaic dynasty when he was 5 years old. Okay.
You used the word pharaoh. Is that in some way interchangeable with the Ptolemies?
Yes, it's a good question. The Ptolemies are pharaohs. Yes, we'll show an Egyptian relief of a Ptolemaic ruler as a pharaoh. Okay, verse number 14. They are. Are you going to touch all of them?
No, I'm
Just like all of them.
Okay, like a martyr. Verse 14.
Now in those times many will rise up against the king of the south. The violent ones among your people will also lift themselves up in order to fulfill the vision. They will fall down.
Okay, what's going on here? Well, the Seleucid Empire in the north under Antiochus III obviously senses the weakness of the Ptolemaic dynasty because it's being ruled by a 5-year-old. Of course, like Josiah, the chief priests, the politicians, the etc. are pulling the strings and making the government work. So Antiochus III, upon sensing this weakness, makes a pact with this guy. who is Philip V, king of Macedon. Not Philip, king of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, but not him. I mean, Alexander's 200 years history up to this point. This is Philip V, king of Macedon. And therefore, that's what it means when many stood up against the king of the south. The many is a coalition of armies between whoever is still ruling and reigning in Greece and the Seleucid dynasty. And they invaded Egypt, and then they divided the region between the two powers with an army. History tells us of 300,000 foot soldiers. They attacked the Ptolemaic dynasty. And the previously mentioned much riches, we see that at the end of verse 13. And shall certainly come after 7 years with a great army and with much riches. Well, the much riches were the desperately needed supplies, probably the desperately needed supplies to keep the army moving. Now, we have a phrase here. Also, the robbers of thy people, right? And in those times, you will stand up against the king of the south. And then also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision. What does that mean? Well, it's directed towards Daniel. Daniel's people. Thy people. These are Jewish robbers. These are Jewish robbers who apparently took advantage of the chaotic state of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, being ruled by a 5-year-old, and crossed the borders of Israel to Egypt to plunder Egyptian outposts, to steal Egyptian goods, the wheat and the barley. Or, what it could mean, is that these robbers who are of thy people robbed their own people in Israel when Israel was in disarray during this period. Now, many of these Jews, upon the victory of Philopator IV at Gaza, which we just talked about in 2:17, many of the Jews at that time sided with the Pharaoh, Philopator IV, and became converts to Greek Hellenism. Nevertheless, upon the region of Israel falling back into the hands of Antiochus III, right? It's a ping pong that goes between the cats. 14 years later, you with me? Then Antiochus destroyed those traitors. Traitors who defected from Hellenism, from Judaism to the Ptolemaic Empire in Egypt. Okay, verse 15, Zach.
So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound, and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him. Even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist.
So what does this mean? Antiochus III, king of the Seleucid dynasty, king of Syria, having conquered Egypt with the, how does it go, with the great multitude, with the alliance with the 5th of Macedon, he now takes the walled cities in the yet to be conquered remaining territories of the broken Ptolemaic dynasty. He will take the most fenced cities, and the arms or the armies of the south of the Ptolemaic dynasty shall not withstand. All right, 16. Liz.
But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed.
History tells us the dynasty, the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, was not prepared militarily, economically, etc., to stand up against or to withstand the onslaught by Antiochus III. And the cities taken by Antiochus III in the Seleucid dynasty right? They're right there on the coast in the map. This would be the Philistine coastal plain in Egypt, the Phoenician coastal plain in Israel. Sorry. Okay, so with that being said, Josephus relates that the Jews, because we see right here, none shall stand before him, before Antiochus III. He's going to bust up from Egypt and head north, and he shall stand in the glorious land. Josephus relates to us, thankfully, that the Jews willfully submitted to Antiochus III and invited him to Jerusalem. Hence, he shall stand in the glorious land. The prophecy also mentioned that upon the march from the north, after he just conquered the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt with the help of Philip V of Macedon, that the Seleucid army would consume the land of Israel. That's the last phrase there. Which by his hand shall be consumed. He consumes Israel. Since the nation of Israel willfully submitted to Antiochus III, this could refer to the invading army of Antiochus III, just ravaging the land of all the wheat and all the barley and all the 7 species mentioned in Deuteronomy 8, 7 and 8, all the foodstuffs, right? Like a horde of locusts, right? Between him and Philip, there was 300,000 soldiers, and by himself, when he attacked Gaza and Ptolemy IV, he had 72,000. Can you imagine 72,000 hungry college boys? I mean, how many frozen pizzas can they eat? Right? They just devour the whole land. 17. Jane.
He will determine to come with the might of his entire kingdom and will make an alliance with the king of the south. And he will give him a daughter in marriage in order to overthrow the kingdom. But his plans will not succeed or help him.
So Antiochus III is going to invade Israel with full force. And then he's going to quote-unquote set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom. What does that mean? That is to say, he's going to set his mind and all of his military forces on invading Egypt, along with a contingent of Jews, or Jewish men who are now loyal to his Antiochus III's Seleucid dynasty. Okay. Antiochus III was very much favored by the Jewish nation, primarily because of his policies. He let Jews be Jewish. We'll just leave it at that. Now, apparently, Antiochus III was unable to totally take Egypt by military force. Okay? He took part of it, right? But he couldn't take all of it because it was being ruled by this guy. And there, like Kathy mentioned, there is an inscription of him, of Ptolemy XII. Alouetes, A-U-L-E-T-E-S. Now, why couldn't Antiochus III take all of the Ptolemaic dynasty from Ptolemy XII? Because the region was under the auspice, under the rule, under the thumb of the Roman Empire. You with me? Nevertheless, we know from history that Ptolemy XII, that's this guy, okay? There he is in Egyptian hieroglyphics, and there he is on the Greek coin. Ptolemy XII, apparently he still made a treaty with Antiochus III. So Antiochus III is coming through the land bridge of Israel, about to invade Egypt, and they make a pact. Ptolemy XII and Antiochus III. He made a treaty with him by proposing another political marriage. And that political marriage would be Ptolemy XII giving to Antiochus III Cleopatra, the famous Cleopatra. And there's a coin with her representation.
How did the Romans get there?
The Romans aren't there, yeah. Well, I shouldn't say that. Physically, they're not there. But it's in their orbit, their sphere of reach. The primary reason they want that reach to Egypt is because of the wheat and the barley grown in Egypt, right, that would be harvested and then exported. That's why they're so concerned about Egypt. Rome's so concerned about it, right? They got a big army to feed, right? Okay, so this is the famous Cleopatra. So he wants to give his daughter, Ptolemy the 12th wants to give his daughter to the Seleucid king Antiochus III, right? And he shall give him the daughter of women. That's Cleopatra, corrupting her. But she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. What does that mean? That is to say, Cleopatra, being forced to marry Antiochus III, defied her father, and she, in the process, also defied her husband, Antiochus III. And under the radar, became a spy, as it were. Sent ambassadors to Rome, and congratulating Rome on their expanding empire, and then at the same time asking for help. Okay. Verse 18. Wesley.
Then he will turn his face to the Ghost Islands and capture many. But the commander will put a stop to his scorn against him. Moreover, he will repay him for his scorn.
Okay, thank you. So upon this public humiliation of Cleopatra rejecting and defying Ptolemy the 12th, her father, but more importantly in this context, Antiochus III, in a set of rage, Antiochus III goes out to attack Greek strongholds, Greek islands, which are or were at that time under the auspice of the Roman Empire. After this, after what? After his, in verse 18, after his rejection by Cleopatra, he shall, who's he? Antiochus III. He shall turn his face to the isles. What isles? The isles under, not the ones that work downstairs in the office. The ones under Roman authority. Okay. Therefore, the insulted and injured now Roman army, and navy for that matter, therefore pushed back Antiochus III, and in the process gobbled up some of his Seleucid territory. And those would be the isles, Rhodes, and etc. that he would have attacked. Now, an example of someone who attacked Antiochus III from the Roman Empire would be that guy, Lucius Scipio. Lucius Scipio, S-C-I-P-I-O. Okay? All right, verse 19. Zach.
Then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found.
Okay, so he's now Antiochus III. Dana's given a lot of attention to this guy, isn't he? Antiochus III is in retreat from the Roman navy, retreat from the Roman army, and he returns to his capital at Antioch, which is obviously later where Christians are first called Christians. But why is it called Antioch? Because it's named after Antiochus. So he returns to his capital at Antioch. And then it says, he shall stumble and fall and not be found. Well, I hope you had one of those buttons you could press. Yeah, fall and I can't get up. No. Okay, he has an empty war chest.